You know, a game I haven't played in a while. Metroid. Just like the good old original non-Super Metroid. How long has it been since I played just original OG 1986 Metroid? You know what I mean? Let's play some Metroid. So, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I have put a bunch of different kind of versions and variations and ROM hacks of Super Metroid on the channel in the past couple of, past like 2 months or so, I think. And I've started every one with that same kind of silly little joke, this, oh, well, I haven't played Super Metroid in a while, herp-a-derp-a-derp, and it's a funny joke, and I'm going to keep doing it for every Let's Play I ever record. For the rest of the time, actually, even if it's not Metroid. Like, I'm going to do a Let's Play of, oh, I don't know, Luigi's Mansion, and be like, you know a game I haven't played in a while? Super Metroid, let's play Luigi's Mansion. But we're getting to the point now where this kind of mega series of Super Metroid and its various variants. Various variants? That's what I'm going with? I'm not gonna... I mean, it's still... we're only 2 minutes into the recording. I could run that back and re-record that. No, we're not. We're gonna leave that in. Alright, no, just making sure that we're gonna leave in the phrase various variants and not try to correct that. No, it's fine. I'm just gonna... You can leave that in there. I understand it's in the contract that you can say what... I know that there's no script. Nobody's scripted it. Nobody wrote it down. That's kind of the... No, okay, we'll just leave it in. That's fine. I'm not even talking to anybody, this whole conversation. So, we're getting to the point in this mega series where it's getting a little meta, because we're to the point now where people are leaving comments, both on my YouTube and my Discord, of, oh, I wonder what Super Metroid thing Brick's gonna play next, and pretend like he hasn't played Super Metroid in a while. And before I uploaded the Metroid series, the old NES Metroid series that just went up, somebody said, I bet he's gonna do a remake of Metroid using SNES. Like, I bet somebody's done a ROM hack of Super Metroid where it's just the NES game. And I read that comment, and my first thought was, whatever game I do next, if I start the video with the phrase various variants, I need to just re-record the episode, because I can't put that on YouTube and maintain any sort of, like, any semblance of professionalism or skill in the craft. My second thought was, isn't this person going to be surprised? Because I'm not playing, like, a remake of Metroid, I'm just playing the actual NES Metroid. And my third thought was, I bet somebody's made that ROM hack. So I looked into it. There is a website called Metroid Construction, which is where you can download pretty much every Super Metroid ROM hack ever made. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them that are garbo! And you shouldn't play them. But it's where you can still get Super Metroid Rotation, if you'd like to play that. It's where you can find this. And I was actually introduced to this through a YouTube series that I saw. When I was doing some research to figure out, is there a remake of NES Metroid using the Super Metroid ROM? And I found some YouTube series that called it Retroid, which I thought was classy. So that's what I'm going to call it, is Retroid. Going forward, that's how we will be referring to the game. And then from there I found the Super Metroid Construction website where you can download all of the ROM hacks. I'm in the lava. So I didn't provide a download link to Super Metroid Rotation when I Let's Played it, simply because I had still had the ROM on my hard drive from years ago, and I didn't think to look up where I had actually found it, and I had no idea where to actually find it. But it turns out I must have got it from that Metroid Construction website. And that's where you can find pretty much all of the Metroid ROM hacks, including this one. So that's one mystery solved, at least. I don't know who made this ROM hack, but it is a remake of the original NES Metroid in Super Metroid, and I find it very perplexing, to say the least. For one thing, they have had to change a lot of the physics from Super Metroid. A lot of the things were changed. to make it more like the original Metroid. For example, there's no crouch. If you push down, you go directly into ball form and directly back out. You cannot crouch at all. But you still can aim. I can aim up, I can aim down, I can aim... I mean, I guess that's really it. You can't aim sideways or inwardly or counterclockwise or hubwards or whatever other direction word you can think of. Samus is 3 blocks high instead of 2 blocks high, which does create some interesting situations. And so physics things have been changed. You can't wall jump is probably the big one for me. They've removed wall jumping entirely because the original NES Metroid didn't have wall jumping. So why would with this new one? And then as you can see here, they've changed the position of some of the items in the game. This used to be an ice beam in the NES version. This is now just a missile pack. Some of the boss fights have been moved around, and what I find puzzling is I'm not sure... I was going to say I'm not sure what the goal of the ROM hack was, but I'm going to actually say I'm not sure if the ROM hack had a goal, because not every ROM hack does. Some ROM hacks, I know this just from my own forays into amateur game design with like RPG Maker kind of stuff, that if you're making a game professionally, which is to say for a profit, you kind of have to ask what your goal is with the game. If you're making a game as a hobby, though, you don't ever have to ask that. All you have to do is open up the software, in this case, I guess whatever Super Metroid ROM hack construction tool exists out there, and you just start making stuff and see what happens. And if you don't think this is true, if you think that this is not, like, if you don't think there is much of a degree of change between game design hobbyists and professionals, I invite you to play literally any mainstream Mario game made by Nintendo in the past 30 years, and then play an hour of Super Mario Maker, and then come back and tell me that there's no difference. If this were made by Nintendo, which in some essence I guess it kind of was with Zero Mission, so I guess we'll use Zero Mission as a launching point for this next discussion topic. Zero Mission, they're like, okay, what is the goal? Like, what's our goal of making Zero Mission? And the goal was, we want to replace the, like, in the lore at least, in the story at least, we want to replace... I got a bomb jump here, so... I'm going a little too early. I find it a little easier to double bomb jump in this hack. Aha! You see, there's no little dude to help me get up to the top this time, but bomb jumping is a little easier. The bomb jumping has been changed from Super Metroid, but I think it'd be difficult for me to articulate how exactly without spending hours comparing and contrasting the two. Well, all I know is I can't bomb jump in NES Metroid to save my life, whereas in Super Metroid I find it's not easy, but it was practicable and doable. So I'm able to get this various suit really early. So yeah, Zero Mission, the goal was we want to replace Metroid in the lore with something modern. And we want to surprise players who think they know Metroid really well. And this room here is actually a great example of a difference between like a hobbyist game designer and a professional one. Is the hobbyist would take these map tiles, which were solid tiles in Super Metroid, just recolored, and think, oh, this would make a good looking background for this room. Whereas a professional designer, a professional game artist would realize these tiles are way too contrasty. It doesn't match the dark palette of the background. So the first time I came into this room, I like jumped over this and like, oh, this is not solid. That's weird because it looks like it needs to be solid. But a ROM hacker doesn't have the tools at his disposal. First of all, probably doesn't have the training and know-how to say, oh, there's a reason that the backgrounds are usually these dark, muted, low contrast colors. And second, probably didn't have the artistic ability to... Did I? Oh, I didn't get my energy tank. I was playing NES Metroid for a moment. I got the Varia and turned around. No, I'm supposed to keep going on and get an energy tank and some missiles. Didn't have the artist skill to draw the background tiles he wanted to use. I think after 20 plus years of doing those kind of pixel graphic edits for various reasons in RPG Maker and other... I mean, nowadays doing it for like YouTube and Twitch layouts and things, I might be just about the skill level where I could maybe make that background look okay. Like, I would know how to choose a palette correctly for it, but I wouldn't even trust myself to do that kind of work, honestly. But Zero Mission, they were like, okay, we're going to make a version of Metroid that looks modern and can surprise players of the original Metroid, but which also works as a replacement for the original Metroid in the lore. Like, you don't, if you're just putting together the lore of Metroid, like what the story is, what the sequence of events happened, you don't need the original Metroid anymore. You can go directly from Zero Mission to... there's Return of Samus and there's Samus Returns, and I never remember which is which, but you go directly to that one, or to AM2R, which is where I would go personally, to Super, to Fusion, and it all works out. And somebody's going to point out that you really should start with the Prime games. I understand that, but just for purposes of illustration, you don't need the original Metroid, is the point. I wonder if the person who made this ROM hack had those moments of what is the purpose of the ROM hack. Because there's two reasons I could think. Let's use AM2R now as a good example. The person who made AM2R... Let me think, where do I need to go? I just got the Varia... we need to go to Kraid now. So we can't... I'm actually going to show you, to illustrate where I think the design goals went off the rails a little bit. Because at this point in the NES Metroid, you're thinking, I can go into Norfair now and start doing some stuff. And indeed, that's the route I took in the NES Let's Play that I just showed you guys. But Zero Mission did this weird thing where both the original Metroid and Super Metroid can be very non-linear. They both have pretty linear progression paths on your first attempt, but on later playthroughs, you see areas of the game where you're like, oh, I could get through there with fewer items. So when Zero Mission came out, they did stuff like this. Like, they put these kind of walls in the way. Like, we don't want the player to go to this area yet, even though in NES Metroid they could have. So we'll block it off somehow. They did this a lot in Kraid's Lair with zip lines. And the person who made this ROM hack did it with this big wall. They don't want you getting over here without high jump. Yes, I could bomb jump over it, and I could sequence break, just for the sake of sequence breaking, just because I want to do it. Which is how the sequence breaking does work in Zero Mission. Most of the sequence breaks in that game are possible, but much, much more difficult than in the original or in Super. And so the only reason to do them is to say you did them. You're not actually, like, I skipped the high jump in Super, but I can wall jump up into Kraid and save myself the one little bit of backtracking. You don't save yourself anything if you go down into Norfair early in this game. You don't save anything by skipping, say, the long beam in Zero Mission. You just make the whole rest of the game way more difficult on yourself. So, with Zero Mission, that kind of design, even though I prefer it the other way, I prefer having the organic sequence breaks, the time save kind of stuff, it still made sense because their project was ostensibly an original game. They said, our goal here is not to replicate NES Metroid, and it's not to replicate any actual modern version of Metroid. It's to do our own thing to replace the original Metroid in the lore. I think I want to go up here to get this. Yeah, here we go. Whereas in this game, its entire purpose is to be a remake of NES Metroid in the Super Metroid engine as a ROM hack. So the question becomes, what's the purpose of that wall? Because in NES Metroid, sequence breaking is fine and is a major part of the game. And in Super Metroid, sequence breaking is fine and is a major part of the game. So why have we decided that sequence breaking isn't fine anymore? Why is it made... Like, you can bomb jump over that wall, but it's a lot harder than just getting the high jump which isn't in Norfair anymore, by the way. You could bomb jump over the wall to get there, sure, but then you're just making things harder for yourself because you're going to Norfair with fewer upgrades, and there's no reason to go there first anyway. So I'm kind of just at a loss for exactly why those kinds of decisions were made. We'll see another one going forward here in Kraid. I think in NES Metroid, I mentioned there's this whole area up in the upper section of Hideout number 1, which doesn't really have a purpose. It's just a dead-end area. I think there might be some missiles up there or something, but there's no real reason to go there. It's just a trap area. And because of the nature of the game, it kind of looks identical to every other area in Hideout number 1. So it's very easy to get lost, and indeed, that was the purpose of the original game. They made it very, very maze-like, very difficult to get your bearings. Part of that was a technological restriction, but they just went with it. They went with it because it creates a kind of theme for the game that was not really replicable elsewhere on the NES at the time. But for Zero Mission, they went through Hideout number 1, and they remade all the different sections to be unique. Like, you still have to go into this upper area, but now you're doing it to turn on... I think you turn on the zip lines up there. And if that's the case, then you can design the rest of the area to have zip lines. So every part of the area becomes more unique, and you get to use all of the map. Whereas in this game, they put the high jump boots up here, but which is good. It's fine. It's nice to have a reason to go to this area. You'll see they put a little boss fight for us up here. Shoutouts to Putty for sponsoring this video. If you liked the video and you want to see more, please tickle my thumb, leave a friendly comment, and ring my little bell.